My name is Claire Hart. I live in America in a small city near Boston, in a blue house with a white door and a porch that sags a little when it rains. I used to think that porch meant safety, like a lid on a box that kept out storms. On the night of the crash, the air smelled like hot rubber and burned sugar. A driver ran a red light on Commonwealth Avenue, and my little gray car spun like a coin. The world turned and turned, then came to a standstill. Sirens came fast. Someone's hand found mine through the broken window, warm and steady. "You're okay," a woman said. "Stay with me." I held that voice like it was a rope across a river. At the hospital, bright lights drew hard lines on the ceiling. My head throbbed in time with the beeping machines. A nurse with neat braids and kind eyes told me her name was Grace. She tucked a blanket around me and said, "You're safe, Claire." A young doctor named Ethan pressed on my ribs and asked me to follow his finger with my eyes. He said the words I wanted to hear. No spine damage, no surgery, just a broken wrist, bruised ribs, a small concussion, and rest. I nodded and tried to believe him. When the room went quiet, I asked for my phone. I wanted soft voices and warm hands. I wanted my parents to say, "We're on our way." They were not in America. They were in Europe, Venice to be exact, posting photos of bright boats, stone bridges, and glasses of pale wine. When the hotel line clicked, I heard water and laughter. "Mom," I said. "Dad, I was in a car accident. I'm at St. Agnes in Boston. Can you?" "Oh, Claire," my mother said, her voice airy, as if I had stepped on the hem of her gown. "Stop being dramatic. You're only acting like you're in a cheap movie." "A cheap movie," she said, while I lay under white light with dry blood on my sleeve. I stared at the ceiling tile above me. A hairline crack ran through it like a thin river cutting through rock. My father took the phone and sighed, the way he sighs when a waiter is slow or a bill looks wrong. "Claire," he said, "you're 30, not 13. We're in Venice. Don't ruin it with your storms." The call ended like a door closing. Trucks murmured on the street outside. Grace checked my chart and asked if I needed anything. "Just water," I said, and when she left, I let the quiet settle. It was not the loud silence of a fight. It was a clean, cold space I had never entered before, a room that had been in me all along. In that room, I could hear my own voice without theirs on top of it. My chest ached, but inside that ache was a kind of light. I looked at my phone, at the long line of texts from years of keeping peace, of sending money, of smoothing rough days with quick transfers and soft words. They had put my name on their cards and accounts when it helped them look good at the bank. They had told me money was love, and then used love like a leash. I knew what doors my name opened. I knew which numbers led where. I also knew where the lines were, the ones a lawyer draws on a page. I took a breath and walked into that cold, clear room inside me. I made one call, and after that, their accounts were empty. I will not write how. I will say only this. I did not steal. I removed what bore my name and what I had added in years when they called help duty and duty love. What moved from one screen to another was not a trick. It was a door I had the key to. I moved money with a steady hand, not out of rage, but out of a new kind of order. A balance sheet can tell a truth words refuse to hold. When it was done, I set the phone down. I watched dust float in the slice of light under the curtain. I felt my heartbeat slow. They kept calling. First my mother, then my father, then both at once from a number I did not know. "Why is our account empty?" my father yelled. I could hear water against stone in the background and the tremble in his voice when a plan slips. "Claire, what did you do? Do you think this is funny?" My mother's voice cut in, high and thin. "This is cruel. We are in Venice. Everyone is watching." The car declined at dinner. I listened to them volley blame back and forth, then held the phone to my ear and spoke in a voice I recognized but had never used on them. "You taught me," I said, "that the one who pays gets to speak. I am done buying silence. I am done buying love. I am hurt, and you called me a joke." They talked over me, louder and louder, as if volume could turn back time. I let them finish. "You will be fine," I said. Sell the watch you don't need. Sell the bag you don't carry. Ask each other what love is when it does not swipe. The line went quiet for one long second. Then my father said my name in the old way, soft at the edges, the way he did when I was 5 and brave. I almost answered that sound. Almost. Grace came back with my water and an extra pillow. She looked at my face and did not ask hard questions. Pain level, she said. 6, I said. She pressed a cool pack to my ribs and told me to breathe in and out like waves. When she left, I opened my notes app and wrote 3 lines. Rest. Tell the truth when it hurts. Keep the door closed. Outside, a siren passed, then faded. Inside, the machines blinked green. I touched the splint on my wrist and thought of my blue house and its white, sticky door. I thought of that porch in the rain and how it had never kept a real storm out. I did not cry. Tears felt too small for the shape of this night. Instead, I counted what was mine. My breath, my body, the quiet inside me, the dollars now in an account with only my name, the right to decide what comes next. I counted the people who had been kind without asking for a receipt. Grace with the blanket, Ethan with the careful hands, the woman who held my fingers through the window. I made a promise to pay kindness forward, not with grand gestures, but with steady ones, as steady as a lock turning. I set the phone to silent. I closed my eyes. Morning came with soft light and the sound of carts in the hall. Coffee drifted in from somewhere. I watched the crack in the ceiling and saw, not a river this time, but a road. It did not lead to Venice, or to the version of family I had tried to buy for years. It led away from begging, away from dread, towards something small and honest. I did not know the full map yet. I only knew this. I would walk it. And for the first time, I believed that my own 2 feet on American ground could be enough. The next morning, the hospital coffee tasted like cardboard and hope. I held the warm paper cup in my left hand because my right wrist was still stiff in its splint and watched a thin band of sky between 2 brick buildings. The blue there looked like a small promise. Grace came in with the blood pressure cart, her badge swinging on a ribbon. She asked about my pain and then, softly, about my sleep. I told her the beeps kept time better than any clock. She laughed and said her brother in New York made pancakes at a diner that opened before dawn. If you ever pass through, she said, order the short stack and sit by the window. It felt good to talk about simple things like pancakes and windows and warm plates. It felt like a rope back to the world. My phone lit up with my father's name. I let it ring once, twice. I answered on the 3rd ring because I am not cruel, no matter what they will say. His voice came low, like a stage whisper. Claire, this is not funny. We had dinner on the Grand Canal. The card declined in front of everyone. I could hear water moving and a waiter trying to be calm while a bill waited on a tray. I looked at the sky again. That small promise. Dad, I said, slow and clear. This is not a joke. This is the bill. You called me dramatic while I lay in a bed alone. You told me not to ruin your night when my skull hurt. Don't be childish, he said. We raised you. We paid for your school. We gave you your car. He was building a wall from old receipts, brick by brick. I felt tired to my bones. You paid for me, I said, and then tried to own me. I heard my mother take the phone. The water sounded closer now, like the boat had bumped a stone. This is Europe, she said in the voice she uses when she thinks a room is watching. Do you know how rude it is to bring this up here? I swallowed the laugh that rose in my throat. This is America, I answered. This is my life. The words that had formed in that cold, clear room inside me the night before stood up and faced the light. Now our relationship is over, I said, and from today I will not pay any of your unnecessary expenses, and I am leaving home forever and leaving this hospital whose address you know now. Silence. Then the old trick, my mother's soft sigh, my father's low hurt, as if sound could braid a rope around my ankles. Don't be silly, my mother said. We'll talk when we're back. I looked at the 4-pump blinking like a metronome. No, I said, steady as a lock turning. There won't be a back. I hung up. My thumb shook. I set the phone face down and let the quiet come like a wave that washes ashore clean. Discharge came with a pen that bled too much ink and forms that said I agreed to be the one to care for my own body. Ethan checked the dilation of my pupils and told me to rest, eat, and avoid bright screens. Small walks. Big water, he said, and drew a smiley face on the bandage because he is that kind of man. Grace slid the bracelet off my wrist like a ribbon, then squeezed my shoulder. You'll be okay, she said. Okay is allowed. I nodded. I signed the papers with my aching hand and thanked the room for keeping me alive. I thanked the beeps and the walls and the way the morning light had crossed the floor. I had $42,000 sitting in a new account, money that had once been waved at me like a promise and a leash. When I saw the number, I did not feel rich. I felt level, like a shelf set right at last. I breathed out. Then I did one more thing because the room inside me asked for it. I sent £1,000 to a relief fund in London for women who need safe rooms and clean locks. A woman I met once at a shelter in Boston had said, "A door can save a life." I believed her because a door was saving mine. When the receipt arrived, I saved it in a folder named Light. They called again. Then they texted. The words leaped and snapped, thief, ungrateful, cruel, then swung back towards sweet. Darling, this isn't you. Let's be reasonable. I did not answer. I made a new rule for my house, even though I was not home. No speech after harm. It felt like opening a window and letting smoke out. I used the hospital Wi-Fi to set a filter that sent their messages into a quiet box I did not have to open. I added a calendar note in plain words. Do not explain the lock to those who keep breaking the door. I smiled at my own small sentence. I like things that fit in a single line and hold. On my way out, I stopped at the hospital chapel. It was a small room with a wooden bench and a glass dish of tea lights you could light with a long match. No one else was there. I sat, not to pray in any grand way, but to let my body be a still thing for a minute. I thought of my blue house with the white door back near Boston and how I would not go back to it. A house is only safe when the people inside it are kind. I whispered, "Thank you for the kind ones," and named them. Grace with the blanket, Ethan with the steady hands, the woman at the crash who held my fingers through the window. I stood, lit one candle, and left. I took a car service to a small motel across town, paid in dollars, and asked for a room on the second floor. The clerk slid a key card across the desk and wished me a good day in a tired but friendly voice. In the room, I closed the door and turned the latch, then turned it again, like a ritual. The bedspread had a loud pattern. The lamp flickered once before it settled, and the air conditioner hummed like a calm animal. I set my bag on the chair. I looked at the mirror and saw a woman with bruises like faded clouds and eyes that did not look away. I opened my laptop and wrote a short letter for a small-town lawyer to check. It said, "I will not be paying for my parents' trips, cards, or bills. Do not use my name for any shared accounts. Please do not come to my door. Do not call my workplace. All future contact must be by letter and only for legal matters." I attached the letter to an email with the subject line boundary. It cost me $250 for the lawyer to read and bless it. When he replied, "Clear and sufficient," I felt something in my chest unclench. Night came with rain that tapped the window. I ate a sandwich in slow bites and put the receipt in a new folder named House, because I had decided a house would come, and I wanted the story of how I built it to have a spine. I wrote numbers on a page. Rent I could manage, money for food, money for light, dollars for bus pass. I wrote the words, "No debt to fear," and drew a small box around them. I turned my phone face up. A new message had come in. I did not open it. I powered the phone down until the screen went black and simple. Then I lay back, pressed a cool pack to my ribs, and listened to the rain. I pictured a door I owned, a key that did not tremble in my hand, a porch that would hold only the shoes of people who wished me well. I pictured morning light on a kitchen floor and a small ledger that told a clean truth. I pictured America spread wide and possible, and Europe far away, not as a stage, but as a place on a map that I did not need to please. I closed my eyes and let sleep come, not as a fall, but as a step across a threshold that I chose. I left St. Agnes with a canvas bag and a map I had drawn only in my mind. I did not go back to the blue house with the white door. That address felt like a museum of old scenes, dinners served like performances, quiet looks that cut deeper than words, the creak of a stair that always warned me I was not alone. The bus station smelled like coffee grounds and wet coats. I bought a ticket with cash, folded the change, ones and fives, into my pocket, and asked the clerk which side of the coach had the better view. "Left if you like rivers," he said. I took the left. The bus hummed through the outskirts of Boston, past warehouses and red brick, and then the world widened into trees and billboards and the glitter of water keeping pace with us. Providence went by in a blink, then New Haven, then the long gray stretch near Stamford, where the sky felt heavy enough to touch. I pressed my splinted wrist to my chest and slept like a stone rolling downhill. New York rose like it always does suddenly, then all at once. I got off at Port Authority and felt the city's pulse press into me. I kept my phone off. I kept my steps small and clear. The next hospital was a world away from the first, even though it sat on the same American ground. New faces, a new intake nurse who called me Han, a new hallway with the same faint bleach and lemon smell. I handed over my ID and insurance card and felt the click of being a person with a name that, here, meant nothing at all. A calm doctor, also named Ethan, which felt like a neat trick by the universe, checked my pupils and the tender spots along my ribs. "You're healing," he said. "That's work. It's slow and boring and real." His tone was kind, not grand. I let myself rest in that ordinary kindness, and by morning, I wanted an apple more than I wanted revenge. When I could sit up without seeing stars, I opened my laptop and made a list, but I wrote it as sentences, not bullet points, so it would feel like life and not homework. I decided I would find a small town where rent was not a cruel joke, a small house with a lock that answered to my hand, and a patch of grass that did not answer to anyone. I would find work that paid enough for me to sleep without dread, and I would find friends who did not keep score on a ledger no one else could see. The words steadied me more than the pain pills. I looked at a map and tried on cities like coats in a thrift store. Albany first, because the trains are easy, then a quieter river town farther north where roofs are steep and winters bite but summers are sweet and green. The photos showed porches with chipped paint and a main street with a bakery sign shaped like a loaf. I told myself, that's where breakfast belongs to the morning and not to the past. The listing that caught me was a tiny two-bedroom with a fence leaning like a tired man and a kitchen window facing a maple tree. The rent was $1,200 a month. I ran the numbers out loud because hearing them made them honest. $1,200 for rent, maybe $140 for heat if I kept the thermostat modest, $60 for a basic phone, $100 for groceries if I cooked more than I wanted to, $30 for a bus pass until I could afford something with wheels, and a cushion that would have to be small at first. It could work if I found steady pay within 6 weeks. I emailed the owner, a woman named Sophia who taught high school history, and then I called her because I wanted her to hear my voice and the part of it that holds when pushed. She liked that I asked about trash day and whether the back door stuck when it rained. "It sticks," she said, "but it's loyal." We both laughed, and then she said the house was mine if I could bring the first month last month and a small deposit $2,900 in all. I wired the money from the account that had my name alone and watched the numbers shift from $42,000 to $39,100. The change felt like opening a safe and finding air, like stepping into a room and realizing the light switch works. My first afternoon in town, I walked the few blocks of Main Street and let the rhythm of the place introduce itself. There was a post office with a flag that snapped in the wind, a hardware store that smelled like metal and oil, and a bakery with a bell on the door. I went in for bread and came out with a job. The owner, a round man named Ben with flour on his sleeves, asked how long I had been baking. I told him the truth, long enough to know that folding dough can quiet a loud mind. He slid a tray of croissants toward me and asked me to show him how I would proof the next batch. I did it without thinking, hands moving on a path they had walked since college nights and broken ovens. "You fold like you mean it," he said, and he wrote $18 an hour on a hiring form with the promise of more after 3 months. I shook his hand. It was warm and dusted with sugar. Sophia met me at the house that smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and old pine. We walked through together, noting the places the paint would want a second coat, and the narrow spot on the stairs where you have to lift your heel just so. She showed me the basement, the fuse box, the shelf where other tenants had left useful things, a hammer, half a box of nails, a roll of painter's tape, the stubborn ghost of a label that once said spare keys. I asked about the neighbors and she smiled. They wave, she said. Do you wave? I wave, I said. We sat on the back step and she told me she had grown up in the next town over, that she and her wife, Anna, came by in summer to check the gutters, that the maple turned a red so bright in October people pulled over to take photos. I signed the lease with my careful hand. The pen scratched, and the scratch sounded like a page turning. The first early shift at the bakery put the town into my bones. I woke at 4, drank water in the dark kitchen, and walked under a sky the color of slate. The ovens roared like engines, and the first tray came out at 5:30, brown and flaking, butter lifting into the air like a promise kept. I learned the register, the coffee machine, the names of people who belonged to the hour, mail carriers, nurses, a man who taught music at the middle school and bought a cinnamon roll every Tuesday with exact change. Ben showed me how the morning cash goes into a metal box and how we counted aloud. Tens, fives, ones, quarters. By 8, my hair smelled like toast. By 9, I was sure I would sleep at noon and wake a new person. Money appeared in a simple way now. $18 an hour, so about $144 before taxes for a day, which meant roughly $720 a week if the hours held. The math made a clean rhythm. Dollars are not love, I told myself. They are doors, and my job is to collect keys. In the evenings, I lived small on purpose. I bought a secondhand table for $80 and a lamp for $30 that made a warm circle on the wall. I found a bookshelf on the curb and carried it with my good arm, stopping twice to rest and laugh at how stubborn I can be. I ate pasta with butter and parsley because it was cheap and tasted like grace. I wrote the day's spending in a notebook. $9 for bus fare, $15 for groceries, $3 for stamps, and nothing for peace. I sent £50 to a women's shelter in London, the place I had read about while healing in New York, because the habit of turning money into light felt like a promise to the girl I had been. After bills, I moved $300 into a savings account with only my name and a simple label, keys. I imagined a future me opening that account and buying something that kept a storm outside. Some nights, the maple brushed the window like a quiet knock, and I would think of Venice the way you think of a city in a book, charming and very far away. I did not hate my parents. Hate is a tether. I chose distance, which is a clean line. I did not unblock their numbers. I drafted a short letter that said I wished them health and that any future contact must be written and only for legal matters. I mailed it with a single stamp. I stood on my porch, and watched the flag at the post office stir. America felt wide again, not like a stage, but like a road. On the 7th morning, Ben handed me a key ring with a brass tag stamped bakery back. He said, "You open tomorrow." The key was cold and honest in my palm. I slid it into my pocket next to a folded 5 and my bus pass, and it felt like the weight of a small future. On my walk home, I passed the hardware store and bought a new deadbolt for the back door of my house, $1.90, which I wrote down without flinching. That night, I spread the instructions on the kitchen floor, set the screws in a neat row, and turned metal into safety with my own tired hands. When the bolt slid home for the first time, the sound was the whole chapter. Ordinary, final, and mine. My new house smells like lemon soap and warm bread. The white door sticks when it rains, but the lock answers to my hand. I painted the front room a soft gray and put a secondhand blue couch under the window. I bought a little oak table for $80 and a lamp like a small sun for $30. I found a bookshelf on the curb and carried it home with my good arm and my stubbornness. On the first night, I ate a bowl of pasta at the table and cried because the only voice in the room was mine. I kept my phone number, but I did not turn the ringer on. I sent a final message to my parents that said, "I wish you grace and a life that does not need me as a wallet." I will not be calling. Do not come to my door. I will not open it. That was it. Clean and short. I paid $250 to a lawyer in town to look it over. He nodded and said, "You're clear." At the bakery, I met other small lives that felt large up close. Grace, the nurse who had rolled my blood pressure cart, found me on social media and drove up from Boston one Saturday with flowers and a joke. She said, "Tell me where to put these," and I pointed to the sunlit corner. Then the baker let me take home day-old bread for free. Ethan, the doctor, sent me a note that said, "If your head aches, call." I put it on the fridge with a magnet shaped like a tiny house. Money moved in steady ways. I earned about $720 a week before taxes. Rent took its piece, and so did the gas bill and the grocery store. But each month, I sent $300 into a savings account with my name on it, and only my name. I wrote down the numbers in a notebook. Plus $720, minus $1,200, minus $85, minus $60, plus $0. It made a clean rhythm. After 6 months, the savings read $1,800. After a year, with a small raise and a small tax refund, it read $4,200. I bought a sturdy lock for the back door for $90 and a thick winter coat for $120. I learned the sound my porch makes when a friend steps on it. Sometimes, when the sun hits the maple just right, Venice slides into my mind, the photos of bridges, the glitter of water. But I do not linger there. Europe is a place on a map. America is the ground under my feet. My life is this street, this kitchen, this oven roaring at 5:30 a.m., this ledger where credits and debits tell me the truth. One evening in late spring, I hosted supper at my house. The windows were open. The porch was full of shoes. Grace brought salad. Ben brought a pie. Sophia, my landlord, came by with her wife, Anna, and a bottle of something sparkly from a shop in the city. We ate at my $80 oak table. I lit 2 candles and, for once, did not worry about their cost. Someone asked for a toast. I'm not a person who likes to stand and make speeches, but it was my house and my story. So I stood.
To new doors, I said.
To locks we own and keys we keep. To money that buys bread and light and not silence. To people who show up. To leave what hurts and walk toward what heals. We clinked glasses. Mine had lemon water. It tasted like waking up. Later, alone, I took out my notebook and wrote a line at the bottom of the page. I am not a bill someone pays. I am a woman who pays her own way. I thought of the hospital bed, the beep, the crack in the ceiling like a thin river. I thought of the phone heavy in my hand and my voice steady in my mouth. I went to the porch, looked at my small street in America, and let the night settle. Somewhere far away, water touched stone under a foreign moon. Here, the maple leaves shook in a soft wind, and inside my little house, the lamp, like a sun, waited for me to switch it off. I closed the door behind me, slid the bolt, and slept without fear of any call.